Well, right now on Bayou Sports Talk, we have the pleasure of talking to a true Louisiana legend, a gentleman who started out at Iota High School in beautiful southwest Louisiana before eventually moved on to the Saints, and that has to be Buford Jordan. How the heck are you doing today, Buf?
I'm doing good, William. How are you doing, brother?
You're still busy as ever, I understand. You on it?
Hey, man, you know how that is. That's what keeps us moving, and it keeps me out of trouble that way.
That's true. Keeps me out of trouble, well, at least in recent years anyway. But
yeah, I know what you mean.
Now, so let's see. You know, you're a true homegrown product to our state, which, you know, we got a lot of athletes across the country who become transplants, but you've stayed a real hometown fella. You started off, of course, your high school career at Iota, Louisiana, and did a lot of good out there, I guess. Did you play all 4 years in high school?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and of course, back then, though, you were primarily a ball carrier.
Yeah, no. That is, I was playing at one of the small schools where I was a ball carrier, as well as I had to play on the defensive side. People looked at me, I had the experience of playing defensive back. So my senior year, I moved to inside linebacker.
Now, all the years you're at Iota, did y'all appear in the playoffs often, or?
We did not make a playoff. The best record we could do my time there was 6-4. You know, we had 1 year where we had a chance if we won the last game to go into it, and unfortunately we didn't do that. So, you know, but no, I didn't have a chance to play in a playoff.
Well, after Iota, of course, you went over to McNeese State. Now, coming out of high school, were you highly recruited by any colleges?
I was recruited by, you know, Tulane, USFL, you know, Louisiana Tech, Northwestern, and all those that, you know, LSU had shown some interest in, you know, earlier, but, you know, those schools like that, the more of the, you know, smaller Louisiana schools, you know, being from Iota, which is, you know, a very small place itself, you know how that is.
That's true. Now, of course, you go on to McNeese, and you did pretty well over there. I guess all 4 years you played, right?
Yes, I did.
Now, if my memory is right, was Barrett Murphy part of your coaching staff?
Yes, he was.
Okay, was he your head?
Coach Murphy was. He wasn't the head. He came on, I think it was my junior year. He joined the staff at McNeese and did it there. And when I was there, he was a defensive line coach as well as the weight and strength coach.
Okay, now my memory is kind of bad tonight because I think I drank too much Dr. Pepper. But
go ahead.
Help me out. Who was your head coach, and how was your relationship with him at McNeese?
I had 3 of them. When I first went there with Coach Ernie Duplashan, who coached me for 2 years. You know, I really thought he should have stayed in it a lot longer. He only did a 3-year tenure, and then we moved into the AD spot. And then when he did that, Hubert Bowles took over, and then John McCann took over my senior year.
Now, of course, you know, at McNeese, what a lot of people know, I've mentioned it on my show often, is that you wound up leading in the history of the state of Louisiana as the all-time collegiate rushing yardage leader.
Right.
Now, every good running back obviously has to have a good line to help him out, and I'm sure all 4 years you probably had a lot of help from that line.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you know, without that, and without those guys, a running back isn't anything. So, I mean, yeah, I give a lot of credit to them. And the good thing is when I get a chance to see them, you know, I thank them, you know, for, you know, the thing they did, the team, you know, and it helped me. It helped me progress to the next level.
Now, I was going to also say that I take it from the way you sound, you must get back with a lot of the folks at McNeese. Boy, I can't even talk tonight. You must get back often with the folks at McNeese, like I guess for reunions and things like that.
Yeah, different stuff like that. And I'm trying to make a game or two, you know, each year. And, you know, you get to see all the old guys. You're still amazed at how many guys live there and even how many guys come back and play ball there, you know, and watch the games.
I was going to say, you also must have been pretty proud of them this year getting all the way to the 1AA finals.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the second time doing it, and I really thought they'd have a chance to win it this year, but didn't pull it off. You know, and I think with Coach Tommy Tate, you know, in his second year there, you know, to make it that far was, you know, an outstanding job. So.
Well, of course, your tenure at McNeese ended after 4 years, and of course, the reason why we wanted to put you on the show this week was to talk about the 20th anniversary of the United States Football League. And while, of course, you weren't there the first season, you would join the New Orleans Breakers in '84 as their first-round pick. Now, before the Breakers drafted you, had any NFL teams shown interest in you?
Yeah, they were. They were showing interest by, going through all, skills and agility things, and I'd done those things, and they talked to me when I was at the All-Star game. The thing that really happened was the USFL did their draft in January. So you really didn't get a chance to do the NFL because they've always had theirs in April.
Right.
So when the Breakers drafted me, I was like, had a chance to stay home. You're with a new league, and all those. So I really didn't. I wound up being drafted by the Green Bay Packers in that supplemental draft.
Oh, okay. I do remember that. That would have been in '84 as well, I think.
Yes, that was '84.
Now, okay, so you joined the Breakers. You were their first-round pick, and, of course, their head coach at the time was Dick Corey, a gentleman who previously, I think, had been with the Philadelphia Eagles under Dick Vermeil.
Right.
Now, what were your impressions of Coach Corey when you first spoke with him?
Well, he was a nice gentleman. Wound up being a good coach. We had some good things going. We had a chance for we started out real good. Then we had a few injuries to some, pretty key people. The quarterback got hurt, and then the season kind of took a turn for worse. We started out like 5-0, and we wound up 8-10. So that was kind of rough for him, but overall, I thought he was a good coach. He really, got along with the players and stuff, and it was fun, man. If I had to do it all over again, I'd do the same thing.
Now, if my memory's right, when the '84 season started, wasn't it because of injury that eventually you got more time in the starting lineup?
Well, what happened was, like you said, I was the first-round draft choice, and wound up, Richard Crump was there as the guy from the year before. And being a rookie, you got to bide your time. He wound up getting injured, and then I was moved into the starting role. And as that happened, then that's when they signed Marcus Dupree.
And, of course, Marcus had 1 year at the University of Oklahoma before he joined the Breakers when he did. And,
Right.
and of course, you, ironically, with all the praise that Dupree got that season, you were the real ball carrier for that team. You had about 1,229 yards rushing on the season, almost double of what Marcus Dupree had. And it was a great example how, you always had a good head on your shoulders. You just kept doing your job the way you should be, and worked out pretty good. And also at the same time, many people thought you were probably one of the best pass-catching backs as well.
Right, and it was, man. It was an awesome feeling, and I just was happy to still be playing ball. And especially for me at that time, I had a knee injury my senior year where I wound up missing like 3 games. And had torn ACL, which is still torn. And to be playing, man, I was just happy to be playing and get that opportunity to continue doing something I enjoyed.
I'll always remember Game 5 of that '84 season because that was in the Superdome. Y'all played the Chicago Blitz, who back then their head coach was Marv Levy and Vince Evans was their quarterback.
Right.
And there was a game where y'all had a big lead in the beginning, and eventually towards the end of regulation, they kick a field goal to go to overtime. And when you get into overtime, Johnny Walton throws a beautiful pass to Frank Lockett to win it 41-35. That had to have been an exciting win.
Oh, it was. Like I said, I think the thing is if that league would have stayed in the spring and really stayed at the salary structure that they had first intended, I think it would still be around today. Because you had a lot of, great athletes. If you think about it, look at all the guys that played that went on to be NFL stars. You have Reggie White, Herschel Walker, Flutie, you know what I'm saying? And just a few, Jim Kelly, and it was just a fun, great league.
And, of course, now, a few of your teammates I got to meet over the years, but one of them I think was probably, though he didn't start that often, he's one of the real nice guys of football, and that's Nolan France.
Yeah, a Tulane graduate, you know what I'm saying? Tulane alumni. Nolan was. And, hey, Nolan was one of those guys. Hey, he may not have the great speed, but he could get open, and if the ball got anywhere near him, he'd catch it.
Yeah, Nolan was a great possession guy, and of course, the other unsung job he had with the team, he was also the holder for a pretty good field goal kicker in Tim Mazzetti.
It was. You know, and again, like you said, had another guy that played, you know, for the Atlanta Falcons, and then wound up playing there. So, yeah, man, like I said, dude, I just can't express enough how much fun and how much that was big fun part of my life.
Now, one of the things about the Breakers, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, but when the one year they were in New Orleans, which of course you were there for, wasn't future Giants coach Jim Fossil on the staff?
Jim Fossil?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
And you go back and you think about it, and there's a lot of, you know, guys that you remember, because there's still even Keith Rowan, who's there, and now who's offensive line coach with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there was, like I said, a lot of guys that played within that league wind up going on and playing ball, you know, into the NFL.
Well, of course, in '85, the Breakers packed up and moved to Portland, which, of course, '85 wound up being the last year in the league. And Johnny Walton, the quarterback from '83 and '84, he got moved over to quarterback coach. And because I remember one thing about the Breakers in '85, they kind of flip-flop with quarterbacks. You had Doug Woodward in the beginning, and I think they wound up going with Matt Robinson, the former New York Jet. Is that right?
Right.
That's right. And so, like I said, the Breakers, like I said, they went up to '85. I know you were injured part of the time up there as well. And
pulled a hamstring,
mm-hmm.
and you know, one of those nagging injuries. Tried to come back a little too fast on it. You know, wanted to play a little too eager to play, and wind up damaging it more. So had to wind up taking some games out.
But I do remember, though, there was some exciting football up there. I remember in '85 with Portland that had a pretty close game against Memphis, where I believe Tim Mazzetti kicked the winning field goal on the last play of the game. And then another time is one of the funniest games I remember watching. A dear friend of mine who I've told you about, Troy Johnson from the Denver Gold. There was a game they played at Portland, and towards the end of the game, the Breakers were trying to kick a field goal to win the game. Troy Johnson came in and blocked the field goal that the Gold recovered, and eventually the Gold tried to go downfield to win the game, but on the last play of the game, the ball got intercepted. I believe the defensive back's name was Restick.
Yeah, Joe Red.
To win the game there. So it was always exciting football. It didn't seem like there was a boring moment in the USFL anywhere.
No, it wasn't. And, you know, hey, you had all kind of things where you had the celebration, you had the little Mouseketeers dance, you know, up in Houston, you know, where guys say they get in the end zone, do little dances, celebrate, you know, and all kind of things. And like I said, it was just a fun, entertaining league.
And, of course, we shouldn't forget when 7 years you played with the Saints, the nucleus of that team that helped build the first winning season, a lot of it came from the USFL. And one of the better names, of course, Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, Antonio. You had Sam Mills, Vaughn Johnson, Chuck Kaminsky. You know, you just go on. And as you know, Sam and Vaughn became all-pro linebackers, you know, for the Saints. That's what we need us to sell.
And like I said, here's a league where you mentioned earlier quite a few great names came out of it to help the NFL become a successful league. And a guy that was a thorn in the side of the Saints for many years, Steve Young from the LA Express, who once the league went out of business, he first went to the Buccaneers before he went to the 49ers. And I guess the games he played must have gave y'all some headaches, huh?
Him having that scrambling ability he was definitely a dangerous weapon.
Right. And, of course, like I said, the Saints, thanks to you and all the other USFL guys, combined with guys like Ricky Jackson and the fellas Frank Warren, Jim Wilkes, 86 through 92 when you were there was a heck of a ride. And it must have been pretty exciting being part of those first winning seasons in club history.
Oh, it really was. You know, and, the only thing that's regretful for it is, I think when I talked to a lot of those guys that was on that team, we felt we should have had us a Super Bowl with that time.
Yeah, and it was definitely possible because the defense, we know, was good enough. You had a pretty darn good special teams unit as well. And like I said, if there was a weak point, and I won't say this was terribly weak, but possibly on offense to some degree, because it just seems most years except for '87, it just seems like the running game never got going that well. And now, of course, the exception, as you know, would have been those first 2 years, '86, '87, where you got Reuben Mays and Dalton Hilliard, who were getting 1,000 yards, in case of Reuben over 1,000 yards, and they were pretty swift backs to block for, I'll bet you.
Oh, yeah, they were. And, you know, like you say, you sit back and you don't want to talk bad about anybody, but I thought we had awesome offense, and I just think if we'd had somebody that could have worked with the personnel we had, because you sit and you talk about that even through that time, we had some pretty darn good backs that wind up going other places and making all pro. You had Ironhead, who was here at that time, wound up going to Atlanta, getting off, having a Pro Bowl year. You know, and then you had Barry Word, who's in that same backfield, winds up going to Kansas City, becoming an all-pro running back there. You know, and, you know, it was just loaded with talent as far as that. You know, and then you had Eric Martin, who could catch anything across the middle and stuff. I mean, we never liked the little speed guy out there, but overall, I thought we had a good nucleus for the offense.
You know, after your Saints career, which was, I guess, unfortunately ended after 1992, of course, you stayed in the New Orleans area, and I know you did a lot of everyday work, for lack of a better word, but many fans got to see you for 4 years on Saints sideline, and that must have been a pretty rewarding job in and of itself.
Well, it really was, because for me, it was a way to stay in close contact with football and the Saints, you know, because I was able to go to the games, you know, talk about it, you know, and just, you know, keep up with the progress of the team. And, you know, working with Ed and Alexander Laurent at that time, it was some fun.
Now, of course, you know I save a lot of that stuff on tape. And I remember it didn't happen too often, but sometimes Ed Daniels could make you laugh by saying something silly. But the funny part wasn't so much you laughing, but the way Alexander would laugh. He had one of the most crazy laughs I've ever heard in television.
Yeah, everybody talked about that laugh. But I tell you what, it was fun, you know, and I was really disappointed to see that show end when it did, because at that time, you know, we were talking about it was one of the top shows to watch.
Yeah, but
at that particular time.
Of course, as we all seen in television, you may not always agree with the decisions of management, and it's, you know, it's really hard to see when a good show like that, which was not just in New Orleans but syndicated statewide for 4 years, had a great following. And you're right, it's just a shame it ended so abruptly. It really had a great following.
It really did, because I mean, you know, I used to get compliments from people, and they saw the show, and you know, and say for me, it kept my name out there and the exposure, and you know, to do the things that I've done and still do now.
Now, of course, shortly after Sideline ended, I think it was about a year and a half later, at the beginning of '98, we couldn't call you just Buf. Now you were Coach Jordan with the Bayou Beast of the Professional Indoor Football League, a league which I believe lasted 4 years. You were their head coach for the first year, and by far that first year, you had the best team in the league. You only lost 1 out of 14 games. You had a pretty good playoff run, and then you won the league's first ever championship on August 15th, 1998, a game that I was proudly there for. A team of real respectable players such as Melvin Hill and Doug Coleman. But, of course, there's one guy we got to talk about who's now more famous in the NFL, and that's the beer man, Michael Lewis. That must have been one heck of an asset for your team.
Oh, I mean, it was, you know, like I've told people and I'll tell people, that Michael Lewis was the reason we were the champions of that league. You know, he was a young man, you know, he had a 50-yard field. Anytime he touched the ball, we were already past midfield. You know, so, and then a lot of time he was dancing in the end zone.
Yeah, of course, the other guys, you know, receiving core back then included Derek Favre, who caught the game-winning touchdown pass in the championship game. And, you know, not to ignore other guys, of course, like Franklin Thomas and Jack Phillips, who, of course, is now the head coach of the Homer Bayou Bucks in the NIFL. It was one heck of a team, and I was there for a lot of those games. And I will say this, not only were the games exciting, watching you jump up and down was the other exciting part of that game.
Hey, thank you, brother. Hey, I tell you what, it was exciting because it was a chance doing that for me to kind of be a player. You know, even though I just coached and, you know, helped guys go, there was a thing about it. You know, hey, I felt like I was involved in the play as well as those guys out on the field.
Well,
you're talking about Jack. Hey, Jack played a big part of our defense because he was one of those leaders, you know, that always, took that little extra, wanted to know extra when it came to studying film. You know, he did that extra. So, hey, but I say this right now. Hey, for anybody that's out there with Bayou Bucks over there, hey, go out there and support Jack because I think he's doing a good job out there and he's looking to do more.
And then, of course, unfortunately, your tenure there only lasted a year, but thankfully you landed on your feet again. In 1999, there was an outdoor league called the Regional Football League, and 2 weeks into the season, they brought you in as head coach. And once again, it gave you a chance to be reunited with Michael Lewis, along with Doug Coleman in the outdoor experience. Though, unfortunately, I guess your success in the wins column wasn't as great as War with the Beast.
Now, I think, you know, at the time, another thing was another good experience in the thing, and just to be able to get those guys and be out there. Hey, man, look, mine is like this, and at that time, I was looking at anything, anywhere I could still keep in touch with football, and that was that. You know, it's like, hey, we got some guys out there, we played, we had fun, and hey, we did what we have to do.
Now, of course, I want correct me if I'm wrong, but of course, like I said, with the New Orleans Thunder, you went in there 2 weeks after the regular season started. Now, and the previous coach was a guy by the name of Rex Stevenson.
Right.
Now, if I'm correct, isn't it a true story that before that regular season started, Rex Stevenson actually cut Michael Lewis from the squad because he wanted to run the wishbone?
Exactly.
And you see, I tell people that story and they don't believe me, but, you know, here's a guy, Michael Lewis, he unfortunately had some adversity in trying to get, you know, cooked up with some good football teams. He played semi-pro in Kenner before he joined you, and like I said, now he's taken off, and it's kind of funny that somebody would actually cut Michael Lewis from a semi-pro team.
Yeah, well, it really was, and, hey, you know, like you said, when I went in there, Mike Lewis was one of the first people that I was bringing back in there. And when I went in there, that's what I was able to do, bring a few of those guys that I already knew what they could do.
Now,
and Mike Lewis was definitely on top of the list of getting him back in there.
Now,
Look at him today.
Right. I mean, now another story I remember when I followed the Thunder was that wasn't it in the middle of the season y'all brought in former Saints linebacker Brian Jones?
Sure did.
And
Jones played like 2 games with him.
Okay, well, how come the stay was so short?
Well, you know, I mean, hey, you're looking at a league that got to where they weren't paying the players. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just one of those things. B. Jones was one of those guys who just wanted to play ball. Came down, did it, and you know what I'm saying? Just when they didn't pay him, you know, it was time to move on.
Yeah, I guess that's understandable in anybody's line of work, not just football.
Anybody.
But, of course, I think you'll know, and, of course, you were kind enough to give this to me, was that I always remember the New Orleans Thunder because you were kind enough to give me a practice ball from the league, and in return I got you a poster photo from when you won the championship in '98. So I guess we're kind of lucky, not to sound silly, but I guess we're kind of lucky we've got to know each other now for the past 12 years and help each other out along the way.
Yeah, for real. Hey, I tell you what, William, it's been a real pleasure knowing you all the time, brother. And hey, I like it. Hey, I know I'm always running, and you always keep in touch with me, keep me updated to what's going on and stuff. So, you know, I look forward to that to continue. And hey, as far as for you with this radio show and your little thing, hey, bro, much success to you. And you know, if there's anything I can do to help you in that, you just let me know.
Oh, sure, that'd be great. And but I have to go back to the USFL because I knew there was something very, very important I have to ask and say this to all the listeners. Wasn't it through your days with the New Orleans Breakers that you met the lady that would be your future wife?
Yes, who is my wife now.
Yeah, that's right. And did y'all first meet at the games, or how did that come about?
No, it was a funny situation. We first met because she was friends with a lady who because of me leaving straight from college and all that, did some decorating for this condo I had.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife was part of helping the lady decorate it, and we met like that, then wound up meeting again, and hey, going on 18 years, 19 years later, we're still together.
And of course, have two children, and of course, a daughter and a son, both involved in high school athletics. And of course, your son was just part of John Curtis's championship football team.
Yes, he is. And he's a sophomore coming up on his junior year next year. And like you said, I have a daughter who's a junior at Ridgewood. And playing basketball this year, she had to sit out. She wound up, tearing the ACL. But she's doing rehab right now, and we're going to try to get her back to full go so she can go ahead and finish her senior year out.
I take it that...
Thank you for doing that, recognizing my family.
Well, of course, when I joined the radio station, high school sports is one thing that I've forced myself to learn because I wasn't familiar with all the teams. And without a doubt, I think something you agree with me is that a lot of us out there need to recognize and support our high schools more, because without the high schools, we have no future college and pro athletes out there.
Oh, exactly. Hey, and like you said, some of them same ones that don't make it to that, hey, we got our doctors, lawyers, and all these other things as well.
Very true. Now, we got to close out. We have something you and I have talked about for a long time, and I think it's something that's overdue. Here you are. You've done so much in terms of athletics and broadcasting, with sports broadcasting for the state of Louisiana, yet we still don't have you in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame in Natchitoches. What on earth is it going to take to finally put you in there?
Hey, well, I don't know, brother. And if it does happen, it'll be a great honor. But hey, my thing is hey, all those great memories I have, hey, Iota, McNeese St. Hey, as long as I have those, hey, all that other stuff, hey, it'd be a great honor, but it's not going to stress out over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, hey, I don't know what it takes to get qualified in that. Hey, and I like I said, if it comes, my brother, and it'll be a great honor. But other than that, I got to keep moving on and trying to keep the positive things going.
Well, we're back here on Bayou Sports Talk, and of course, this past few days we've been commemorating the 20th anniversary of the USFL, and online with us now, a gentleman who played at the beginning of the USFL and all 3 years with the Philadelphia/Baltimore Stars, and that's Antonio Gibson. How you doing today, Antonio?
Just fine, William. How about yourself?
All right. We're just, hopefully by the time we talk, we'll have some sun instead of all these darn clouds.
Okay.
But, all right, well, let's start off. Of course, you were actually raised right next door, in Jackson, Mississippi?
Exactly. Grew up